I need to get out of here. How many times have I looked?
Things never happened before, not even at courses, so I don't know how on earth it's a thing here. If you really hate landing on platforms accurately, then actually this jump might just be for you. But if you swing the other way, then good luck, buddy. Use the stomp to land immediately, but we'll get to that later. One smaller issue is that Sonic
Look at that skyline. It feels like everything just changed. Delilah is some sort of witch. How is this possible?
Just now, somehow it's slower. It also didn't help my first impression. Sonic standing in the air for all of these things I mentioned.
These bastards are working with Ramsey and the Duke of Serkonos.
Standing in midair and you ask music. What is this? What am I listening to? Really sweet world leading up to my early assumptions being accurate.
Traitors.
That the latest Sonic game, once again, is big. But thankfully, the game does.
Throne room blocked off.
Anybody? Ready? Come here. It is yours. Tastes so right.
Traitor. That was for my father. Senseless slaughter. Killed for the love. Look at this place.
Well, not difficult, it's the first level after all, but you did actually have to get a semi-decent time to even
This won't leave my hand again.
Usually for a time ranking in something like Generations, it's very forgiving. Unfortunately, it's just the time that official rank, so even at the first level I realized the slow ass don't get that good favors. From here on out, whenever I can skip an enemy, I just did so. There's no score or mission associated with it, so unless you're absolutely more of an obstacle like this.
Anton Sokolov made this lock.
This one kind of just felt like the legend. You want to go for an East rank a lot of times, you're skipping rings and you gotta just look at out of the window.
I spent so many nights in here after the rat plague.
It's hard to get the allotted rings, so who am I complaining, right? And if the level's fine overall, that's not a big deal.
I have a feeling I'll need these.
Plus, they're all pretty short. And the last mission is to collect, of course, you can't forget it, the red rings, which is just terrible. 99% of the time, they just placed along the lowest or easiest path, eating again.
The reserves won't help against Delilah, even if I had a way to carry it all out of here.
You're probably not gonna see that many. This was a problem in Forces 2, and I'm kind of upset to see it's exactly the same here. As some of these levels have lots of different paths to go through, which is great, but they never really come difficult enough to get to or to stay on for that matter. Like I was picking path A, B, or C just on a checklist, and each one just had a slightly different reversal time. Anyway, going back to the red rings, maybe the completion bonus for getting all is so cool and amazing that Sonic Team just wanted everyone to be able to get it, including their grandma, so I guess we'll just have to see. Well, now that we're done with the first 42 seconds of the game, let's move on to the main event. My ass! Yours? Maybe? Who's...
looks like I'm the only one who made it out of that. Whatever it was.
I know what it was!
You have done the impossible. You have escaped cyberspace through your own power.
Until I understand this, I have to go into hiding. I should make my way to the docks.
Did I say that? I'm trying to guess. When you first start the game, before Eggman's wilderness exploration adventure and Sonic's pretty sharp upon, the game presents you with a couple of choices. Firstly, the difficulty, which changes a couple of things like VHD and such.
Gotta get out of Dunwall.
To play any of the action style or high speed style. Doesn't really tell you
What do I have to do to help my father? What do I have to become?
I'm gonna be real with you though. With either Mutant Sonic or not, for the love of God, don't forget action. At that point. My God, it'd drive you insane.
You're not fit for the watch uniform.
And I'm sorry I've mentioned Forces so much, but it was the last 3D Sonic game to come out before this one, so there's gotta be some comparisons, okay? And as a content, it's actually a good experience.
I need to find a ship.
Much later on. Feeling extra hard mode, but the game is still busy. The about 1 second.
I'll kill you! Finish him!
Pokemon game, was self-challenge. I also picked the high speed style, of course, because I like actually finish the game. It took me about 20 hours to finish, and if I picked action style, I'm pretty sure that time would have doubled. Even if you did pick action style, as I said before, you're not actually stuck with it. You head on over to the controls menu and you can change the speed cap there. This is, I guess, Sonic Team's answer to every Sonic fan out there who wants Sonic to control differently to others, so, like, hey, you do it then. Again, do yourself a favor, just crank the settings up to the max. Other than the initial starting speed, it feels really weird to just see Sonic kind of clip into a run. I ended up putting it around 20% or so. Now this is epic. Holy shit! Alright, I have a taste of my son. Ah! Okay, no problem. What the hell was that, Sega? You only taught me how to homing attack and lock on. What'd you expect? Like a Dark Souls started off by teaching you how to jump and lock on, and then, alright, he's ready, throw the balls at him. Not that you'd know it from my floundering here, but the combat is kind of fun. Not fun enough to warrant wanting to do it over some fun 3D platforming, but hey, when there's a new enemy, it's sort of fun to figure out how to defeat it, other than those little sharp stains that turn into cylinders, those guys that go slurp shit through a boba straw. I think he lost a contact lens. Epic game design! As you probably already know, Sonic Frontiers does away for the most part with level-by-level design, instead opting in for a wide-open, immersive world with challenge. I'll be honest with you, I kind of like the whole open zone thing they've got going on here. Apart from Island 3. Island 3 is not for me. But even if this was the most content-packed, exciting open zone, as they're calling it, in all of video game history, the constant popping of these floating platforms in the sky and the rails and the objects, it really takes you out of the experience. I mean, you get used to it, sure, but at least have like a glitch effect or something on it, you know, when they pop in, and then at least it matches the theme. As it is now, it's really distracting, and it certainly doesn't help when you're trying to find the next little platforming challenge, but, you know, it hasn't teleported in yet. Speaking of these little platforming challenges, I'm trying to make this all flow together really well, but in order to talk about the platforming challenges, I got to talk about the collectibles in the open world and how that all goes together. Making videos is hard, so let me make things easier for both my head and yours. Here's Sonic. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's the freaking Forces model! And you'd be right. He's the Forces model through and through. From the blank stare to the shitty stance, he's got it all! But check it out! Holy crap! As a Sonic fan, my expectations are blown away because they were really low. That's right, everybody. Sonic's got his idle animations back. He still doesn't take the time to moisturize his eyes with a bit of blinking when he's not doing them. But hey, it's a Sonic game. I'll take what I can get. Now, what sort of gameplay can we expect from this Sonic? Adventure style? Boost style? Lost World style? Sonic Boom style? Oh, boom. Actually, it's kind of a mixture of all four. You've got the easily controllable movement on the ground like in Adventure, a boost button, which is practically the boost from, you know, the boost games, and the run button from Lost World put together, and an emphasis on fighting with kicks and punches like in Sonic Boom. Except it's nowhere near as good as in that game. Oh, they've really dropped the ball on that one. As I mentioned before, Sonic's jump is by far the worst part of his kit. It really sucks that even though you've got pretty great control of him on the ground, as soon as you jump, he swaps to Forces physics. And this includes the homing attack too. It's not like the Adventure games where wherever you're holding the analog sticky homing attack suit, Sonic has to be physically facing the enemy in order to homing attack it. And when the midair controls are this stiff, it gets kind of annoying. The camera also needs to be facing the enemy, so I hope you've got those right stick fingers primed and ready. It's also worth mentioning that you don't actually need to be in the air to do a homing attack. Sonic will just kind of home in on the nearest enemy when you press the button, regardless of if you jump or not. On the one hand, this makes attacking enemies pretty snappy, but on the other, it can lead to some noises. Just wanted to punch the barrel. He's still got the stomp and the slide and ladder never actually needing to be used, I think, ever. And now if you hold down the stomp button, you'll do a weird half bounce, half stomp sort of thing, which on the third stomp, it creates this very cheap-looking electrical attack. It does bounce you a little higher than a regular jump, though, so it's sometimes useful for platforming. To me, this kind of feels like Sega was like, oh shit, they want the bounce bracelet back. What do we do? I know, we'll turn the stomp into the bounce, and it'll look real janky. It really does look like a mod. Like, it just does. I don't know how they thought that one was finished. Sonic also now speeds up as you're stomping, accelerating downwards, which is a nice change, otherwise it would take a long time to hit the ground in this open world environment. He's also got his light speed dash back, now called the Light Dash, which Which, I mean, that's fine, but wouldn't renaming it to something like the Ring Dash make a bit more sense? When I think of Light Dash, I think, zooming along a light beam like in Shadow the Hedgehog. Funny thing about the Light Dash, I found the place to use it at the start of the game, but I hadn't been told how to do it yet. I figured I just hadn't unlocked it. Sonic's got this new skill tree for battle moves and the such, and we'll talk about that later, but just in case I looked it up online, and lo and behold, I had it all right, and why on earth wasn't there just some sort of tutorial? It took up until the 7th cyberspace stage for the game to finally mention it, and learning that shit's optional. I could have gone the whole game without knowing how to do it. Think of the children, Sega. Think of the poor, stupid children. Don't forget about the drop dash. Wait, yes you can. Sonic's got a brand new move called the Cycle Loop, the Side Loop. The spin cycle. For the most part, it's essentially a glorified interact button, whether that be for something like starting up a challenge, picking something up, not sure how that works, uncovering something hidden, or maybe even putting out a flame. You can also use it in battle to knock enemies into the air, break their shields, break certain weak parts, and so on. Using it on nothing in particular will also net you some rings, which is kind of busted when you think about it. When Sonic hits his ring cap, he gains a super speed boost, or whatever they call it. I don't think they give it a name. But in order to get those rings, don't worry about exploring or nothing. Just spin around in a circle for a minute or two. Super speed boost ahoy! My God, it's 1 in the morning and I'm doing this. Sometimes you can even find upgrade items. I suppose it's kind of like Knuckles' dig from Sonic Adventure, except you always get something. As you can see here, with a small circle, it'll give you a couple of rings, but you make it Among Us, and it'll give you a bunch. But hey, draw a penis, and that's some skill points right there. Skill points, you're asking? What's a skill point? This isn't Sonic Unleashed. Radical Soda's never going to finish this. Sonic's got a brand new skill tree with all sorts of new moves for him to show off, pretty much all in battle. You get these points by doing different things, like breaking open boxes and such, killing enemies, and doing tricks where you just kind of wiggle the analog stick around and Sonic will have some sort of seizure in midair. I kept thinking it was like the Generations tricks, and I found myself hitting L1 and R1 to finish the combo, but that just makes Sonic go into his parry start switch. It's just Shadow the Hedgehog all over again. Oh, and Sonic can still quick step, which is kind of weird. I guess I assumed with the better controlling Sonic you don't really need the quick step, but it is kind of useful in certain areas, I guess, and it is forced upon you in one of the mini boss fights. And thankfully the only fight that utilizes the quick step, unless you count rail grinding as quick stepping too, which it basically is, I suppose, assuming the quick step also randomly sends you flying backwards sometimes. Weird thing with the quick step though is that it has a delay. For something that was so functionally fine in, well, Generations and Unleashed, Forces be damned, it's incredibly annoying for it to be this slow. It's actually really fast in that one mini-boss I mentioned earlier. But in the overworld in some stages, it's got like half a second of delay before it goes off, meaning, well, it's a slow step now. Aha! I think this is because of the new parry move, like it needs that delay to make sure you're not trying to also hit the other bumper. As you know, that move uses the L1 and R1 buttons together. But I much would have rather than just put the parry on L2 then. That button does less than me on a Saturday. Hey! That's kind of rude. What's even weirder is that in cyberspace it's still got the delay, but in those levels you can't actually use any of the fighting moves. So checking to see if you're parrying is pointless. Speaking of cyberspace, all over the islands you'll find their level gates scattered all around. In order to access these, you'll need to acquire the Gears of Mystery, which you can get from killing the big bosses roaming the area. Here's one I prepared earlier. And there you go. Once you've got yourself a brand new gear, well, I feel like this is a guide or something. Shut the fuck! Oh, Sonic's stanky leg got past the QA team. This happens every single time you put a gear in. So, into cyberspace we go! Clearly they're taking old levels and remaking them, so what sort of cool level are we gonna get? Angel Island? Marble Zone? Mystic Cave? Oh, that'd be cool. Oh, Sky Sanctuary. Nice. Funnily enough, this level's the only one in the game with an actually difficult to get S rank. And that makes it kind of fun, actually. Trying to get this S rank was one of the most memorable moments of the game, you bitch. Take a look at this. It looks like ideal for Sonic's quick step there, with 3 lanes. But apparently Sonic's quick step was more like a quick leap. And now I'm hitting the quick step but not going anywhere. Yep, that's right, folks. You want a quick step went up against the wall, you'd have better luck asking for a rich guy for $1 million. This level isn't difficult or anything. In fact, it's extremely simple. The first red ring is literally slapped right in front of you at the very start. But having a goal to work towards and trying to be faster and faster, finding new ways to shave off a few seconds here and there. I haven't had this much fun with a new 3D Sonic game in, 10 years? which isn't really saying much, but hey! The only thing we need now is new level themes and different music because I freaking hate this. I don't think it's really news that I dislike the vocal tracks in Forces. I know generally I think the majority of people who played that game liked the vocal tracks the most. And that's fine. If you like the new cyberspace tracks in Frontiers, I'm happy for you. That's great. It's just not my cup of gamer subs using Code Radical. My personal favorite soundtracks from the series will always go to, like, Sonic Heroes, Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Generations, Shadow the Hedgehog, music that fits the level more so than it's just trying to... I don't know what these tracks are trying to do. They don't suit the level themes, which is something Sonic games used to do really well before, before Forces, I guess. Once you beat a cyberspace level, you get rewarded with vault keys, and if you manage to beat all the missions, you get a few extra. And these keys can be used to unlock the Chaos Emeralds from their vaults. I unlocked 3 immediately, so I even knew the game was 3 hours long, which is still an hour more than Forces, or there was something else afoot. Thankfully, the game is not 3 hours long, and there's still a lot more to talk about. Like the Cocos! which are definitely not Korok seeds! They have an helmet! Oh, hell yeah, purple coins! Once you're out exploring in the overworld, there's a couple of different things to do. The first being little challenges that are sprinkled all over in order to unlock more vision on the map. Here's a little challenge that requires you to homing attack a few times. They're all this easy, unfortunately. Noteworthy challenges here include racing a timer to a button, which, quite frankly, gives you way too much time, even on the final island. This type of challenge is just literally a joke. You're running on a hamster wheel to charge it up before time runs out, which, unless you literally don't know how to move an analog stick, you're not gonna fail. You don't even need a boost. You've also got, using the Cyclope on something? Quick stepping? Yep. Holy shit, is that the Sonic Boom puzzle? These challenges are never really that interesting or, well, challenging, which is kind of the whole point of it. You get it. I feel like they just had to pad out the time and they needed some way for the map to be revealed, but I don't know, they're saying it. These feel more like a checklist than actual engaging gameplay most of the time. Thankfully, if you do want some engaging gameplay, it is here, just in the form of, well, I want to say the open world platforming, but that'd be kind of, well, lying. So the main gameplay loop is all about collecting tokens or trinkets to help Sonic's friends out in the overworld. Imagine if every time you wanted to progress the story, money bags from Spyro was there begging for more, well, not Jimmy, crystal hearts. This ain't a terrible system by any means. I mean, it gives you a reason to explore, and it's just unfortunate that the exploring isn't really part of the island. It's hard to explain, but the platforming in the overworld isn't really, for the most part of the overworld. Sometimes there'll be a tower or a cliff face or a wall you can run up, But most of the time, the exploring in this game comes from the floating grind rails and square platform segments. Like, for lack of a better comparison, Forces has this a lot. It's got a lot of block levels. Colors does this too. Even the bloody Origins game slapped them in. The difference in Frontiers here being, well, they're not blocks anymore. They're platforms. Even loops and shit are made out of these things. You would have really killed them to make a simple circle. I was going to do a joke about how I could draw a circle freehand, better than Sonic Frontiers is. Loops, but I noticed. It's not that they totally don't make sense here. It's, cyberspace and ancient technology is the big theme in this game, and the platforms look kind of cyber-y, but you gotta admit, at the very least, they could have made them look more ruin-like, like the rest of the island. Grind rails could maybe be vines or stone, and maybe with moss growing on the top to create a slidey surface, or it's just really weird to look up and see floating grind rails everywhere, Like, at least give them little thrusters or something to give us a reason as to why they're stuck in the air. And I know previous Sonic games have had floating rails too, but in those games, you never really stood under them. You're always racing by on top. Standing beneath them it just looks weird. But I'm starting to talk about, polish and things that the game needed, right at the start of the game as a general design standpoint, which is something I feel like the team behind this didn't really have the time for, just judging by the raw amount of ass blasting popping you see at all times. Anyway, usually at the end of these little platforming segments, you'll find a token or two for Sonic's friends. As I've already said, you need these to start up what's usually a cutscene where you'll get to hear the characters interact with each other. I heard Ian Flynn was behind the writing of these interactions, or just character dialogue in general, and for the most part, I think it's pretty good. Apart from Amy, but we'll get to her. The delivery, however, whoever was the voice director, I think they just did a bad job. directing, I guess. Oftentimes characters will feel like they're talking at one another rather than to each other. And yes, there is a difference, believe it or not, guys. I feel like this happens the most with Amy and Knuckles. Sonic, for the most part, is pretty good. They're probably the best he's been so far in any modern game.
I don't know. I guess I'm just that awesome.
Yeah. Well, took me a while to get used to this deeper-voiced Sonic, and while I still don't think it suits his design all that much, again, slightly redesigning all the characters would have helped out a lot here. But it's not as distracting as you'd think it would be, and it quickly becomes just, another part of Sonic's character. Even Amy's voice has changed. I thought her boom take was pretty bang on, but I guess they went with a different direction here. That being serious. We must be serious at all times, guys. Again, not a bad voice, particularly for Amy, but it just doesn't suit this monstrosity. Oh, out of all the Sonic characters, she needs a redesign the most. Anyhow, on this island, Sonic finds Amy trapped in a big red pufferfish. Once he breaks her out with the power of love... Look, if they're gonna just pretend Amy doesn't have a raging hard-on for Sonic like in the past games, that's fine, I don't care. But then why go make her trinket a heart? Wouldn't have there's nothing. She's got no personality or defining traits. Give her hammers? The pufferfish doesn't like this, though, and so takes refuge in Sonic's arm, which clearly hurts him, corrupting his textures.
I've been infused with weird zappy stuff before. Besides, I feel like it gave me some kind of boost.
Yep, it sure did. With the power of injuring himself, Sonic can now do the Diddy's Grand Slam, which allows him to counter after parrying an attack. I always thought this was kind of weird, like, oh no, my arm! What am I gonna do? With this new power, I can finally animation cancel short hop fear. I'm stronger than I thought. Now here's a big boss, Asura. It can be intimidating, I know, but check it out! A training simulator to help you prepare. Wall run. Oh, hell yeah. I think we're ready now. All right, here we go. Holy crap, is that Asura? Oh, training simulator. Gotta learn how to wall run first. Okay, we're back with the skills we need. Holy crap, is that Asura? Oh, hey, a training simulator. Holy crap, is that Asura? Just kidding, guys. We'll actually go fight at this time. Sonic, look out! Oh, hey, a training simulator. Asura here is one of my favorite mini-bosses, which is unfortunate because he only appears here on the first island. He'll kick you off every time you destroy one of his big spiky things, but if you're fast enough, you can boost back on and keep wailing on him. Running up a big enemy is something we always see Sonic do in media, so it's pretty neat we actually finally get to do it ourselves here. I didn't want to fight him anyway. I don't know if this was intentional, but when Sonic gets hit, he doesn't actually lose any rings until he hits the ground. And the weird thing about that is that you can use a variety of moves to stop falling to the ground, meaning you just don't lose any rings. I mean, Sonic still got hit. Is the game telling me the ground is the real enemy here? I suppose landing on it when half your face is taken up by a giant eyeball could do some real damage. There's something inherently just nice about being able to control Sonic well for once. Yeah. I don't know what that is, though. Here's the next cyberspace stage, and hey, it's a new theme! Kind of. I mean, it kind of looks like Speed Highway during the day, which they wouldn't bring back 3 minutes from Generations, would they? They would do that. Anyway, it's nice to see something somewhat original, even if it does remind me. It's 2.5D. They brought back the 2.5D. Yep, it's back! Everyone's least favorite gameplay feature. Slow them down and make them frown. It's the 2.5D special! Unfortunately, though, these kind of levels are anything but special. They're easy, they're simple, and they're just kind of boring. I don't think I have anything else to say. I was promised I'd experience Sonic like never before, but I've experienced this before. Oh shit, is that Eggman?
I appear to be in a digital dimension.
Anyway, so after that cutscene, you gotta fight the big fat genie. Have I mentioned how wonky these menus are? They require way too many button presses. You gotta press accept on the option at the top and accept the option you want to change. You just have the left and right directional buttons alter the option you've got highlighted and use the R1 and L1 for flicking over to the big ones at the top. They already actually do this, but you still got to accept it for some reason.
I understand this ain't a huge problem for most people, and they'll just kind of roll with it, but as far as a menu goes, I just wanted to point it out because me and my friends felt it was needlessly complicated. Thank you for listening.
Did you know in Sonic Frontiers, Sega added the new constipation meter? Don't let it build up too high or Sonic's going to have a rough time in the toilet. Next level's up, everybody! I really didn't expect to be reviewing every single cyberspace level when I first started this review, but I think it's a nice little segment to spice things up every now and again, you know, with how varied they are and all.
This green hill, staring at it from afar. Have I seen it before?
Wow, Green Hill's looking a lot more like Green Hill right now.
I shit you not. This level is just the 3D segments from Sonic Generations Green Hill Act 2 slapped into this one. You run through the intro part, you skip the 2D section and go straight into the giant chopper chase segment, even though there's no giant chopper here, because of course there isn't. Then you skip the 2D section afterwards and finish it off with the final 3D segment. You're even able to stomp on the bridge to break it. Funny how I did that on my first try, almost like I recognized the level design. Although when it came to adding in the bit where you got a slide, I guess they suddenly grew the part of the brain that feels shame, and you know, that'd be copying too much. This shit's so lazy. I can understand borrowing level design from maybe Sonic Adventure or Sonic Adventure 2, but taking the level design from a pretty recent game you're also taking most of the assets from? At that point, why don't I just stop playing this and go play Generations? Because this is just a shitty and shorter, slower version of the same level. This goes beyond just reusing a level theme. This is just straight up reusing a level. Remember the first corner in Generations Green Hill where you drift around it? Well, they kept the corner here, and of course you can't drift, so Sonic just slams his pretty little face into the wall no matter what you do. And even though I can do this in the open world, here in Green Hill I'm stiffer than a poop in a brothel. Who tested this? It was like, yeah, this is great, I love giving Sonic concussions. Even if you're ready for it, you only just barely make it around. Whatever, I don't care anymore. Let's talk about, momentum. There isn't any. Now piss off. This isn't a big deal, to be honest. I'm not expecting Sonic Team to suddenly understand how to make a perfect 3D Sonic game. The drop dash in the overworld comes kind of close to feeling momentum to me, but when it loses steam, there's not really a way to build it up again, even if you're rolling down a hill. What they could have done is treated it like the slide in Forces. That thing actually slipped down hills like a stick of butter on a lubed-up water slide, but then, you know, actually let it carry your momentum further than just kind of stopping in place once you hit the end of the ramp. I don't think that would have been too hard, to be honest. The only really annoying thing about the momentum here and the way it works, well, aside from it being really wonky looking, I mean, just look at Heroes for a comparison, is that some dash panels will act like this, where you're given control almost immediately, and therefore have to keep, you know, the button held to go forward, but just others will yank it away from you for a decent chunk of time, leaving you in an area you had no intention to visit, usually. There's sometimes a 2.5D segment even. Oh, the horror. These can be a nightmare to get out of sometimes. But more on that later. Check it out. A wall that needs to be climbed. Training simulator. Oh, hell yeah, I've been training for this. What? Soon enough, Sonic runs into a giant guardian. Titan. It's Titan. It's an original idea, and Pokemon definitely didn't also copy this exact thing from Breath of the Wild. What's Breath of the Wild? Haha, you stupid bitch. I found the one bad frame in the cutscene, and now I can give the game a 1 out of 10. Nuts to you, woke leftists. We'll see who lowers the Metacritic score for who. Sonic does the homing attack against the Titan, but he forgets how to punch, so it pounds a sorry blue butt just like it's been dreaming of doing, throwing him right through a couple of towers and into a cliff face.
Okay, I'm not taking that thing down the traditional way. I'm gonna need the Chaos Emeralds. And maybe a little bit of luck.
I find it really funny how in this game Sonic gets flung through 2 rock towers and into a cliff and he's perfectly fine afterwards. But then in Sonic Forces he gets punched a couple of times by Zavok and friends and he's out for the count.
Well, seeing as I used them right after this cutscene, I should probably talk about the little upgrades you can get throughout the game. You've probably noticed the 4 stats down there in the bottom left all saying 1 out of 99, and no, that's not the Sonic Forces Metacritic score. And while there is 4 stats down there, there's only 2 different ways to upgrade them. The first one is by collecting these red-colored heart fruit things and the blue balls. Then you hand them off to this Elder Coco. I swear they're not copying, guys. Sonic would never take something from another game. Don't even entertain the thought. And he'll take them as some sort of currency and upgrade your attack and defense. However, I should mention one bit of fruit does not equal 1 level, though. As you get higher and higher stats, the amount needed goes up and up. And honestly, I was never too sure of what number I really needed, although not that it really mattered. The game isn't so difficult. 1 or 2 levels is really going to affect the gameplay all that much.
Also, can't forget to tell you about the Elder's special ability, Shadow Clone Jutsu.
Now, the other 2 stats, your ring count and your maximum speed, well, they're upgraded by a different, more short elder hermit, Coco. You give him the little cocos you can find and collect around the big open levels. And you can see an estimate of how many you have by standing still for a bit, and they'll just kind of rock up with the cocks out. Again, no real numbers on how many you need for an upgrade, but again, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. You generally just pick these things up when you see them. I never really went out of my way to search for them. Now, the problem with this specific hermit, well, you see how you leveled up with the tall, skinny hermit, right? They're pretty straightforward. You give him the fruit, he gives you the levels. Now, why don't we take a look at how you level up with this one? And guess what the problem is? Holy shit, whoever made this at Sega or Sonic Team, screw you, dude! You specifically, why? Why does it take so long? Why does it only do one at a time? Why can't I move the cursor immediately when the menu pops up? Why does he say anything more? Should it be anything else? Anything more just sounds weird. And when you finally get your max speed all sorted, well, onto the rings! I ain't kidding around. Fully upgrading my ring count took me 18 minutes of this shit, which means upgrading both took me 36 minutes! More than half an hour of game time devoted to this! This isn't Sonic Forces Sonic Team. The game ain't 2 hours long. You don't have to beef it up! I can't believe that upgrading some stats in this game literally takes the same time as beating a quarter of a different Sonic game. What were they thinking? Did somebody actually benefit from this taking so long? Does that same person get off on stuff like this? Is it the Hermit? I could be spending this time talking about how Amy's still a hologram and Tails is missing, but Amy wants to get a Coco laid, but no! Instead, I'm stuck speaking to an old man who can't ask a simple question properly. Never mind the fact that our time on Earth is preciously limited and I'm spending it doing this. I'll tell you what, though. The amount of time wasted here pales in comparison to what you'd be wasting playing in action mode. If the time trials are anything to go by anyway. Check it out. I still had 30 seconds left. This aggravates me in 3 ways. 1, if action mode is really so slow it requires this much time, it's too slow, get rid of it. 2, why didn't you scale the time based around how fast my maximum speed is set to? That seems like an obvious workaround for people who want to play in action mode for some weird reason. And 3, I think I have hemorrhoids, so I see a doctor about that.
If an enemy comes at Sonic while spinning sideways, use parry to defeat it, okay?
I can finally talk about the next mini-boss, the creatively named Squid. Now, this boss is absolutely crazy. First thing you got to do is phase through it. That's very important. Then don't forget the second part of the fight, where his platform disappears for some reason. And then finally, the fight finishes off with Sonic hovering half a foot above the ground. Now, this is how you make the quick step fun. The only other Sonic game with the fun quick step was Unleashed. Please, for the love of God, if you're going to include the quick step, say, just do it like this. It's only as OP as your reaction time is. See? This mini-boss all in all ain't too bad. You catch up to it and beat the shit out of it. I feel like they could have done something like this in the actual overworld, though, instead of forcing you into a quick step segment. I don't know.
It's beautiful here, but there's a loneliness here.
Now that. Badly written line.
I
really need to point this out. Badly written line in a Sonic game. That's like... It's like a Sonic game being bad. It's just how it is. The reason why I'm pointing it out is because it sticks out, because the rest of them are kind of decent. You don't use the word here twice in a sentence like that. You gotta, kind of mix it up, so things are less repetitive. It's beautiful here, but there's a feeling of loneliness permeating the area. I don't know how Amy would know those words, but she's like an adult in this game, so who cares? Or how about, it's a beautiful island, but there's a loneliness here. It's probably more in the range of, like a 12-year-old.
Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he sees the world calling him on. Sonic, how the hell's he doing that? Now, here's something a little different. On each island, there's what looks like a regular cyberspace entry somewhere on the map. Usually out of the way, you gotta explore to find. But this ain't no Green Hill. Grab your fishing rod, because we're gonna catch some Sonic, look out! It's poisonous. Catch a carp, catch a goldfish, catch a marlins. Catch a star post, which can hover off the ground. Catch Big the Cat doing a ventriloquist act.
I was looking for fishing spots and wound up here.
How does he do it? I suppose anything's possible when Sonic's looking so focused on your crotch. You use your purple coins to fish with Big, and in doing so will net your tokens, which you can use to purchase different items. Upgrade materials, character tokens, rings. I have no idea why you'd use your tokens on these, but the most interesting purchase to be found here is the Egg Memos. These are little voice logs from Eggman, who's currently stuck in cyberspace, as we've seen. These little logs kind of clear up what's been going on with him in the meantime and expands further on his relationship with Sage. Sage is Eggman's daughter. Okay, not really, but he does actually develop father-like feelings towards her the further the game progresses. Sage is actually Eggman's AI he created in order to unlock the secrets of the Ancients. Back in that first cutscene where Eggman's surrounded by the Triangle Truth, she's the one that pulls him into cyberspace in order to protect him.
She's the classic trope of an AI slowly learning to love. Not in an oh my god Sonic is so sexy kind of way, more so like a want for her father's approval and a try to understand Sonic's lengths that he'll go to save his friends kind of deal. Friends like Knuckles, who Sonic's definitely not casually banging on the side. Little interactions with Sage are found scattered all over the islands, just like with Sonic's friends, and the tokens are used here too. Although usually the cutscenes that ensue generally all follow the same sort of structure. Sonic asks a question and Sage tells him to fuck off. We learn more about her intentions as the game progresses, but for now, I gotta wait till nighttime for this challenge. Is it weird that this game kind of reminds me of Nier Automata? Or Automata without whoever the fuck you say it. Oh. Oh. All that for just another thing I gotta cycle. Why even make this a night-only thing? If I turned into a werehog, at least then I would've got something sexy out of it. But the way it is now, there's no point.
His poor mother says she's lost her children. Can you leave them back here, please?
Sure thing. Sonic Adventure 2 reference?
This poor mother says she's lost her children. Can you leave them back here?
Sure thing.
That's really rude.
Now here's a little something for all you guys out there who didn't think there was enough, hurting in Sonic game. So occasionally the story will need you to complete a little mini-game in order to progress. In this case, it's herding the mother's children back to her and Amy. And I mean, she must really, Jesus, you get to your 20th kid and they're just kind of falling out. Of course, a mini-game like this doesn't provide much of a challenge, so in order to spice things up, the Cocos drop bombs every now and again. Went from mild to mild plus. I don't know where the hell the emerald came from, but at least we finally get to see Sonic do a victory dance again. The last time that really
I gave it to you. I gave it back to you.
No Mars, I'll take it. Now that Sonic's rolled those little terrorist stinkers back to their probably terrible mother, two of them died, and a flight comes from within them, and they slink up into the sky, showing a strange symbol for a brief moment. You see this zap occasionally, here and there on a computer and a teaser trailer on the roof of some floating pyramid. Sonic, what does the symbol represent? Why does it appear when Cocos bite the dust and Amy completes? The questions started flying ever since that first trailer, so what's the deal? Well, nobody actually knows and the game never tells you, but hey, you can hook a seahorse by the scalp, so who cares? Man, Sonic Frontiers has everything. Lawn care. How many copies can I pre-order? In this minigame, it's all about, well, as I said before, lawn care. And to make it challenging, bees. Well, challenging might not be the right word, but by golly, they sure are there, and it's the thought that counts, isn't it? I know I've been making a lot of fun of the difficulty, and I get it, it's not meant to be a super hard game, but hey, there are actually some difficult segments here. Just like the Dark Souls of Sonic games. Put this here. Why? Why do you have this? This is the only time something like this pops up. Why is it here? Did anybody enjoy this? Let me know if this was a genuinely fun experience for you. Who came out of this one and said, "Oh shit, I hope that becomes a Sonic staple," like Green Hill? Soon enough, people will be going in the trailers because it's laser puzzle in Green Hill again.
Don't get too far ahead.
Maybe we should just let them wrap it up on their own.
We have to see this through.
We still haven't found Tails. We've been wrangling children and taking detours the whole way.
Are you telling me you would leave behind someone in need?
They're not in need. They're just trying to get some of that cold cussy. I'm so sorry. Hello, Chaos 2? Chaos 3? Smash, probably. I'll be honest, the story here kind of intrigued me. Like, who were these guys? Why do... They look so much like Chaos. What was their deal? Why do they do what they do? How are they living beings made out of liquid? We're 80% liquid, but we still look so